Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to your daily lighting critique. We are on a new episode from Mike's Vacation, which I'm calling Awkwardly Critiquing from a Wicker Bed. We've got construction next door, so we've got some noise issues, but we're going to dig right through it. So thank you guys for being patient in this process. I will be back at my desk by the end of the month, or at the end of the month, I should say. So October 1st, I will be back, so you won't have to look at this awkward angle of me from my lap. So we've got a few submissions today. We've got a variety of poker puss. We've got some first lighting challenges. We've got some Sir Desmondus Rotundus to go through. We've got our dark skin character here. We've got a couple of her fantasticness. So I want to start with let's start with Stan and your project one. So this is very cool. This is different than what we normally see, which is normally like a specific film reference. And I really like that you're like, no, I want to do this situation. This feels much more of like you're approaching it like you would light for a film, which is like, I want to light a concert. And you supplied these references, and I think it's great. So looking at these references, and obviously there's the color differences between the two. That's totally a result of what's happening on stage, and you know that gives us some room to work with. Also, like you can see in this one here, that there's two different tones of light. There's the main warm light, and then there's these like cooler spotlights that are happening back in here, and just seeing how those play together is interesting. But the biggest thing about both of them is they have a very consistent look, which is the wall of stage is a very bright, glowy element, and the characters themselves, or the crowds, are silhouetted by this very bright, glowy light. And what you can actually see is there's a lot of it functions as like aerial fall off. The way that the darkness of these foreground characters is much darker than the darkness of the characters closer to the stage. So it's like, as we're closer to the camera, very dark, and we move closer, they're all rimlit. It's just the visual effect is that their fill light is going to be increased as we get closer to the stage. So you've got a good start on this, right? You've got the rim light on each character is pretty well in place, and it does get, I can tell it gets brighter as we get closer to the stage. But the one thing is that there's a couple things. Their dark points don't really move that much, right? And this is a matter of adding some, like depending on where you're at with your lighting training, you may not be able to do this yet because this comes in like some further classes. But I just want you to be able to see that as we get closer to the stage, like the darks on this character are too dark. They're too heavy. You'd want to lift those, and you would do that with some atmospheric fog, perhaps some Z depth, to kind of build that up. So additionally, the rim lights look good, but they depending on the light that you're using, you really want it to feel like a giant. It's almost functioning like a giant screen right here, lighting them up. So if the radius of the light that's causing that rim feels a little bit small. I would just double check that and make sure it's nice and big. I'm just seeing just from the hard shadows from their arms here versus what we're seeing in the reference where all the shadows are very soft here. Yeah, and then in terms of the stage itself, like this whole area should feel like almost like that's not totally right. Again, like dark points aren't right, but something more along, like, fade it off over here. Something more along this line. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like super bright, and that creates like a little bit more fall off, and then that would trickle into the audience there. But you really definitely don't want to see any dark points. The other thing I want to point out is these spotlights that are shining down. You've got good central bright spots on these lights back here, but these blue lights shining down here, they just kind of feel like they don't feel like they're brighter at the core or brighter at the source, and get less bright as you go down. They feel consistently the same blue color kind of throughout. So I would just really get that hot base core light, and then yeah. But I think I would say for the most part that those are the things that you want to work on. So getting these blue cores to be brighter, getting the overall stage to be brighter, and getting more atmospheric fall off between the foreground characters and the stage, specifically in the dark points on them, to be slightly different. And there's one other thing. Oh, checking the radius of the light that's causing this room and making sure it's a nice big light. This is a great start. This is a very cool project. Like, you're doing good things. So I would be very proud of what you've accomplished with this first assignment. Let's jump back to Alfredo. So this is cool. I love the color scheme in this. I would love to see your reference, because I think I feel like the fill light might be too bright and too focused, because like what I'm seeing is, well, first off, I love the vignette that you're getting on the background. I think that looks really nice. But what I'm seeing here is we've got a key light coming in this way, and then I've got a shadow from this hand from a light kind of coming in this way. And if that's the fill light, that's pretty tight. And I would like to see that softened up so we don't get this like hard line coming across his face. Additionally, I feel like the key light on him is very bright. Mostly because like, and this comes down to like the mood that we're trying to set. So if we're trying to make him feel happier, then this level of intensity and this angle of the light is good. But if we're trying to make him feel nefarious or anything, like we'll want it to be a little bit darker, a little bit more rimmy. It's just that this is feeling pretty frontal at him, because what it's doing is it's also evening out the values and the hues coming from here all the way down here. It's like his face, his fur, his cape, his chest, his wing, his legs all kind of feel like they're the same tone, and we want to just like vary that up a little bit. I do like the specularity you're getting in the wing. I think that's working out really well. And again, I really like the color scheme that you've established here. It's just a matter of, I want to see a little bit more reference to kind of balance that out and make sure we're hitting the mood and the emotion that you're trying to set with this. And then also, this is something else to keep in mind too, is you've got this so focused right here, but we're not seeing any of the warm light appear on the hat, and it makes it feel a little bit disjointed. So just something to keep in mind. Ashley, so happy to hear that you are excited about this process. I just don't want to be a bummer to people, and because I think that you're making really good progress from the very beginning, and I think that's very cool. So, where to go from here? So, you've made good progress. I like the fill values are coming up. Couple things that I would really like to work on. Number one is getting some more light on the hat. It's just interesting that it's almost like silhouetted against his skin, even though there's light coming up here and around here. It almost feels like just the shader value or the material color of that is just too dark, so it might be a matter of just boosting that. The other thing that I would really like for you to work on now that we've got now that we're really kind of establishing things and things are starting to come together, is really push yourself to define the direction of this of the pool light coming up from underneath the octopus, right? So it would be brighter down here on the character, and then slowly and then we would lose a little bit of it coming up, right? So like anything above this tabletop wouldn't be getting this light as much as it would be getting this one. And I do like neutralizing a little bit. It might be a little bit too neutral, and it's feeling a little like desaturated here on the tabletop. So let's perhaps just bring back warmth just a little bit. Um, but the big thing is like really feeling like the light is coming up from underneath. Um, Same thing on the character here. So we've got like this light creating good shaping here, but I really want it to feel more like it's coming up from that way. And then this is kind of just creating a little rim light on the character there. Yeah, because with most of the lighting setups that we're seeing from this challenge, what we want is the area of the tentacles underneath the table to get darker, so that like the hands kind of pop up. But with yours is inverted, so we want that to feel brighter. Um, Additionally, if there's any way to read a little bit more what's going on under the water, I think that would be pretty cool. Just like a little bit more, just because it almost looks like they disappear. Um, and I can see a little bit of something down here. That being said, I don't really know what the model, if this camera angle is flattering at the model at that angle. So if it is ugly, just go ahead and keep it hidden under there. But yeah, so for you, let's make that light a little warmer. Really focus it on and then really focusing on getting the underlight to read on the character is your next big step. So really great job, great progress overall. This is looking great. Drew, we've got our test at our woman that was originally from our Paris set, but we partnered with Black Girl's Code to release this character for free. So every time that somebody downloads this character to practice lighting characters with darker skin, we donated to Black Girls Code, a great foundation out of San Francisco. Check them out if you guys haven't seen them yet. We like working with them. Okay, a few things about this character. My first thought is overall, it kind of, like this is kind of a classic CG thing where she's balanced between being in the sunlight and also feeling a little dark, right? So I can see that there's light coming in from this way. I see a shadow on the wall, but when I look at her, I'm not feeling the brightness of like a bright sunny day. So like if I took her and made her brighter, like this is like it would feel more like this in terms of tonality on her. And same thing with the wall. Like I just don't feel like they're getting bright enough to really feel like a warm day. And same thing with a little bit of the color as well, just getting a touch warmer, and adding just like warmth. I think looking at Alfredo's, if you go back to the critique, I believe it was from Monday or Tuesday, of Alfredo's knitted monster character, you can see kind of a before and after that we did of what it feels like when it's sunny. It feels like light bouncing around and scattering around and bouncing off surfaces and just filling it with a bunch of warmth, especially with this orange brick behind her. So that's number one, would be increasing that. Number two is that the light that's hitting her, and this is one of the biggest challenges of lighting dark skinned characters in her in particular, is to make sure that we're emphasizing the specular values on the skin. For years and years and years in Hollywood, dark skinned characters were not lit properly. They were lit the same way that white skin characters were, and it just ends up washing out their skin tones, and it's not great. So instead, what you want is to preserve the darkness of the skin tone, but emphasize the shaping through the specular highlights. So right now, there's a lot of matte diffuse value in the skin. We really want to increase the specularity to get that to really pop off. Additionally, we want to feel the sunlight in her hair, because right now it feels pretty even from the fill side to the key side. As far as the background goes, the scale of the brick feels very large. Like compared to her head, the bricks would be like this big. We want it to be smaller, so maybe cut that scale in half. The bump is also a little bit big. It's also uniform between the brick and the concrete in between, so you might want to try and get them to be different, because like the bump value would be different between those two things. But the bigger thing is just the overall size, and they feel very large, or it makes her feel very small too. But I would say that those are our main points to work on going forward, and I think that's where you want to be for the next round. All right, Kjelds, great progress here. The one, I think I think the fill on the face is looking a lot better. It would be nice to see a touch more shaping in the hair coming around here. And then the last thing is I really want to feel on the car. The car's gone a little bit orange on us, and I want it to be more of like the pure red color, or like something darker. But like, because if you want to think about a red sports car, right? Let's see, maybe we'll try and twist it around this way. It's a little tougher. So really getting it to be like definitely feeling red would be a lot better. That's a little extreme. But yeah, just I think feeling that a little bit more strongly and less kind of like the orangey brown would be good. Still not feeling the taillights as much. Maybe it's just getting washed out, but I would still like to see a little bit of red here. And then just darken this tire a little bit more. And then the rim light on her, I would match that up to the red light and make that a little bit more red. And then maybe get a little more darkness down in here, if you can. Like just to kind of allow her to ground into that space a little bit more. But great stuff overall. I think this is very cool. I think this is a unique shot. Yeah, good progress. Morrow. So let's find... okay, so this shot. So my first thought when I looked at this was like the cloudiness of the water felt odd to me in a fishbowl, and I couldn't figure out why. It was just like, because it's like one of those things I'm like, man, it just doesn't feel right to me. So I started looking into some, and because like my first thought of looking through a fishbowl comes from, or a fish tank comes from Romeo and Juliet. So like just kind of seeing what that looks like here. And so it's just like it's much more clear than that, especially when we're looking straight through it. It's just like a slight bluish green tint. And again, that's not from the water, that's from the light source within there. So you can kind of play that around too. But like this level of murkiness, you don't really see in a fishbowl. It's much more, it's much clearer than that, even if it's like a dead fish. So just one thing to look at there. The other thing I noticed was the structure of your depth of field, because I see a lot of out of focus in the background, but like these cards extremely close to the foreground are in focus. So just like making sure that structure makes sense, that there's, it's either everything's in focus or things get closer together on both ends, the back and the front. And then watch out for this glass. The refraction through it looks a little janky, and also like there's something going on here. I'm not quite sure what that is. Just something to look at there. The caustic pattern is a little strong. Yeah, and also like the direction of the light is a little bit confusing to me. So I can see it coming in from the right, but I don't know if it's behind the character or in front of the character. It just, I would almost want it to be behind the character to catch like some rim light almost in here, and then that'll create some rim here, that there, and then a little bit on these cards here, and kind of just like all of these elements are just kind of being rimmed up and shaped from this light source that's coming from behind the character a little bit. Yeah, so I would just work on those, defining the key light, getting that water to be less murky, and maybe, because right now it's like a yellow-green tint, maybe making it like a blue-green. And I would take out, if there's a volumetric light, it looks like there is, I would just take that out for now. So I think that's everyone. Okay, that's it for today. We will have another round of awkwardly critiquing from a wicker bed tomorrow, and I will see you all then. All right, happy lighting, everybody.